Hello, Nasir.
Hello, Samik.
Hi. Since the occasion is the film, the takeoff point is the film A Holy Conspiracy, which is soon to be released. I was just thinking that this whole experience, the drama, the excitement of the courtroom drama has been something very, very traditional and very popular. And so many variations have taken place. There's a whole history of the courtroom drama on the stage and on the screen. Did you find A Holy Conspiracy different in any way? You must have also acted in some of the older such courtroom plays. Was this different in any way in the different context, in the different reality? A courtroom drama comes with a new character, with a new nature. Did you have any such feeling?
It was not the kind of familiar territory that courtroom dramas usually have.
Right.
In fact, I have never on stage acted in a courtroom drama. But I have often had the desire to do so, to do a play like 12 Angry Men or
Yes.
something like that. But the entire experience of filming is not dissimilar to the business of performing on the stage, as is generally believed. It's a question of getting across. When you're on stage, you have to get across to every member of the audience. When you're in front of the camera, you have to get across to the camera. This is a lesson Shyam Benegal taught me in my first movie because I was very nervous. And he said, don't worry, just make friends with the camera. And because the camera ultimately is the eye of every man in the audience. So I would think that is really the only difference. To me, even when I'm performing on stage, the reactions of the audience don't matter. I do appreciate it when they are approving, but it doesn't guide my performance in any way. So this one certainly feeds off the audience, but feeds energy. It's an exchange of energies. It's not that the audience suddenly approves of you, so you start giving a very good performance. It's not that.
But it's more an engagement with the character, the role, and the situation. Your direct engagement.
But that is so in movies as well.
Mm.
Your engagement with the character, your engagement with the situation, your identification with the situation, and your empathizing with the part you're playing. All that happens both on the stage and in front of the camera. It's not dissimilar, as I said.
But in the case of A Holy Conspiracy, in terms of the theme, and from what I have observed in your work over the years, in your responses to the immediate reality, to changing circumstances, to the process of history, you've been somebody who has always responded to these and not lived in a comfortable ivory tower of stardom. So, Holy Conspiracy is, in a way, about the present reality, but treating it, I would say, metaphorically also at one level. And something that touched me right at the beginning, the role that you play, is that here is a man who has dealt with law, who has engaged with law seriously, committedly, and finds himself in a situation where the legal system itself has been affected, has been sickened in a way. And he withdraws from all of it. He says he won't have anything to do with it. It goes against the grain of justice, the process of justice. And then he's drawn back to the whole experience of legality, law, justice. This whole drama of this conflict with the process of justice, questions about the process of justice. Something
Yeah.
that is completely new in the experience of film drama or anything of the kind.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty consistent with the work I've been doing in the past. Films which depict the reality of the times, because that is what I believe is the function of serious cinema, to act as a record for the future. Films which talk about injustice, films which talk of the right values, whether it was an Albert Pinto or a Parr or a Khandar. It's consistent with that. And this one, particularly, I felt very moved by. I was initially a little bit conflicted because I feared it might be interpreted as an attack on the Christian community, which is not intended to be. The Christian community is being troubled enough as it is. That is not at all the intention. The intention is to use the example of parables and to show the fact that what the parable says is of more importance than it being a factual thing that actually happened. And I think the parallels will certainly get across to the audience, because here we're talking of a situation which at the moment we're all undergoing, and where we're being asked to, where mythology is getting confused with history.
Even the use of words, terms are being taken away from us.
Yes, it's like being it's like being in 1984, Orwell's 1984.
You can't use the word corrupt.
Yeah, with news.
For example, this morning's newspaper is telling it's
Yeah.
unparliamentary, the word corrupt.
There you go.
Untruth is
Right.
unparliamentary.
Yeah, because and in Newspeak in 1984, why are there so many words for good? Why is it excellent, wonderful? No, good and ungood. That's it. And 2 minutes of hate. Every day there's 2 minutes of hate. Yeah, it's become 24 hours of hate.
So, but while you're working in this film, another question that has struck me when I watched the film and I recalled your earlier works and several other films is that you have worked in the Bombay mainstream. You have worked very importantly and engagingly in the new wave, in a way, in the Bombay cinema, initiated by Shyam and others. And you have also worked with Mrinal, Gautam, and now Shoiba, three Bengali directors who are again not part of the so-called Bengali industry, just in the margins of the industry. Was there anything special? Was there anything different in your work with these Bengali directors? Because I have often felt that though there is always an attempt, and this attempt is becoming more aggressive now, to have one single cinematic language, and a cinematic language which is heavily industrialized. So independent thinking, independent initiative, independent feeling about the reality, all these become things which are thrown underneath the carpet. So cultures, local cultures, cultures in regions, with their histories, when they come into cinema, they create another kind of cinema. There was a time when we looked for the Latin American cinema, the Cuban cinema, the Chilean cinema, the Argentinian cinema, and the differences of cultures and cultural histories. They came up and they gave a different character, not one international universal industrial cinema. Do you have, or have you had that experience when working with Mrinal, Gautam, and now Shweta?
Yes, certainly, because they are inheritors of a tradition, and the people who followed them have taken on off from where they left off, or where the legacy that they've left behind. In Hindi cinema, that hasn't happened. There hasn't been a shining example who one can try and emulate, as you did have in Bengal. You had Mr. Ray, you had Ritwik Ghatak, who had a limited following, but who's terribly underrated. So the example of these people was always there. And also Bengal, don't forget, was one of the pioneers in beginning cinema in India, along with Maharashtra. So they've inherited that tradition, and I've always found the depiction, whether it's of the cities, whether it's of the villages, whether it's an allegorical situation like Mrinalda created in Genesis,
Or
it's
even
always,
marginal population, marginal communities in
yes,
Pakistan.
or even the marginal communities, it's always done with a great deal of understanding. It's not done with the person standing under a rain shelter and observing. It's done by people who out there in mud up to their knees with these people. And I've always found that depiction to be extremely truthful. I think there's a tremendous love for the city that all these filmmakers have, and that shines through in their movies. You see it in the old Bombay movies, that same affection for the city and the depiction of its life with an indulgent and affectionate eye. In the Bengali filmmakers, the eye is not as indulgent. It is a little more sharply critical and at times bitter, as in the case of Ghatak. But otherwise, I greatly enjoyed all the people. I also worked with Srijit. I've also worked with Rituparna. Not in the Bengali movies though, but I've always felt. I did a film with another one which never got released. I even did a Bengali commercial film ages ago, which helped ruin the Bengali film industry. It was a massive success. That they are very trusting. They don't consider it their job to teach the actor. They know who they're selecting. Their choice of actors is very, very sharp, and they let you be, and just if you're not on the wrong track, they just very gently guide you. Particularly Mrinalda, who I just loved working with. In Genesis, unfortunately, I was in a troubled state of mind.
And there were tensions, I believe.
There were tensions there, which I regret. And it was the last film I did with him. I don't know. But I deeply regret what happened through that film. And I think it didn't quite turn out the way he wanted. But anyway, the experience is stimulating, definitely. Much more so than with most Bombay filmmakers.
Right now, and we're quite excited about it, that you're in Bangalore and you're performing at Rangashankara. You're doing a whole lot of your plays together. That's great news for us, and we'd love to see you in Kolkata also. Whenever we haven't seen you for a long, long time. We
Yeah,
really miss you here on the stage.
Anyway,
We had such
somebody calls us soon.
such wonderful memories from Dear Liar to your Gandhi play. And we'd love to have you back here on the stage.
Thank you.
And this fresh engagement with theatre in an organized manner, concentrating on virtually a sort of retrospective. Is it a new beginning in a way, or do you have plans of a program, I would say, in theatre? Because after all, the film scenario at the moment is generally
It
it's
is
quite
not.
dismal.
Yes, it is. I hope I will regain the confidence to make a film again someday, uh, which is proving tough because my first film I wasn't happy with. But the engagement with theatre also will definitely continue because it's been my stimulus, it's been my lifeline. And I got addicted when I went, addicted to continuous performances when I went abroad to London to perform at the National and perform for 6 months. And I found that to be a most terrific. I felt that every actor should go through something like this. And so I've been doing that. We had a play called The Father, which became very famous after the Academy Awards. And it ran for a month every night. And more am I trying to do that, but it often isn't feasible. Uh, Actors get more and more work on the web. Uh, Now it's replaced TV. If you've got to change casts, that kind of thing proves difficult. So it's not going to be possible to have a professional theatre which runs every night over here because that's just not our tradition. That's something which only the folk theatre can do because they've been doing it for years and they know how, and they have their audience. But for us to attempt something like Einstein every night, I don't think we'd be able to sustain it. And as for a, I don't work in any institution. I love working with young actors and helping them. It's very rejuvenating for me. But I don't ever. I've tried working in both the drama school and film institute and gave it up. I just can't work in an institute. So I work with young actors whenever I get the chance to.
But you get time and opportunity to really work with them and train them, because one advantage that they have in the big theatre places in the world, in the big theatre cities, I would say, is that they get trained actors, trained in schools. So the director is in a comfort zone. He can demand things and they will deliver.
Right.
It's also well organized. Since we haven't ever had that kind of training, even the National School of Drama, you yourself have gone through it, and you have your reservations. You've shared that with us in your writings also. So we haven't ever had a professional, fully trained band of actors. So the director is not just a director. The director is also an actor trainer at the same time. So you're playing two roles, which
No, I
the
don't.
best directors in the world don't have.
No, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't. I agree with that. He's not an actor trainer. He's he's the goldsmith who's got to distinguish the gold from the brass.
Sure. Mm.
The training has to be done by the actor himself. You know, I've met plenty of trained actors who are totally incompetent. People who've studied in RADA and so on. So it has a teacher can only take you so far. The rest of the journey you got to do by yourself. And the trouble is that, and these acting schools have sprouted like mushrooms all over the place. And they teach these children nothing except to delude them into thinking they'll become film stars. And in any case, the youngsters who come there don't come there to learn acting. They come there to get an opportunity in movies.
Right.
The last thing they're interested in is acting, is learning the nuts and bolts of the job. So I work with the people in my company. A lot of them are youngsters. And while rehearsing, I make them undergo what you could call a training as well.
Quite a rigorous training.
A rigorous, yes, yeah, a rigorous. There's no getting away from that.
That shows in the performance that you put up. Now, when you come to, again, we come back to the Holy Conspiracy.
Yeah.
This was the first time you were acting with Soumitra Chatterjee. But how did it work eventually?
But you're looking fantastic. So you must think positive. Good morning. Good morning. Well, I had met him many years earlier in Paris when there was an Indian film festival, and we'd spent a very pleasant afternoon together. I envied him, I have to say, greatly, and the fact that Mr. Ray cast him repeatedly, I used to feel, okay, well, I'm not this kind of actor, so am I ever going to get a job in a Satyajit Ray film? As it happened, I never did. And I can understand why Mr. Ray cast him every time, because he was a malleable actor. He personified sophistication and gentleness, and at times he could play the hard man as well, and did that very successfully. So I was pretty much in awe of him and what he'd achieved. Unfortunately, as you said, he wasn't in the best of health and in the best of form, and could only give a few hours every day. So, well, I mean, that was fine out of regard to his age and to his stature. But I wish that there could have been more of an interaction between him and me when we were doing the shots. But it was all right. I can understand. I wouldn't call it the most satisfying experience of my life, but I don't regret it in any way, because I finally got to meet him. I got to share screen space with him, and I think that we've made a movie which is going to be an important one, and I really hope that it is perceived in the right spirit.
Now, one of the things about a holy conspiracy, which is again part of that old culture or the old tradition of the courtroom drama, is that you will remember that in several courtroom dramas, not 12 Angry Men, of course, but others, they have been about religion, old conventions coming up against modern thought, modern ideas, and the clash of civilizations and cultures and histories, patterns of histories, processes of history, on the Snopes trial and the witches, etc., etc. So, Holy Conspiracy falls into that category in a way. There's a tradition of the courtroom drama which debates history, debates tradition, debates beliefs. And do you think that we have an atmosphere at this given point of time where people would see it as a debate of cultures, a debate located in history? Is there a danger of it being misread and
misread? Well, let's hope that eventuality doesn't occur, and people are captivated by the drama itself.
Exactly.
in the story, because there is plenty of it, and that it talks reasonably about an issue which is pretty inflammatory. I mean, religion has become a weapon instead of being a refuge, and that's really sad. We're living in a time where we seem to have become so thin-skinned that any person making an irresponsible statement about your faith causes you to fly into a rage and start destroying things. I mean, is your religion that weak? Is your religion that feeble that one foolish statement can endanger it? In that case, is there something worth believing in? But the trouble is that, and the Supreme Court itself said that you cannot tamper with faith.
Mhm.
What was done was wrong, but you cannot tamper with faith. So let's just hope that the drama of the film appeals to the people, and the truth that it is trying to depict. That is what affects people.
And this sick phobia of hurting somebody's religious sentiments,
Yes,
this is being brought to the law courts at every instance. Is a legal system only meant with such a lot of injustices, so many kinds of injustices, heaping on, heaping on, heaping on, and it's just hurting somebody's religious sentiments? That becomes the most
the
important.
most important issue.
So that's quite.
Yes, let's hope that doesn't happen. Uh, we can only hope, because the film has been made with every good intention. The film has
Yes.
been made as well as it could possibly have been made, given the very strapped budgets that we had. It was made very quickly. It was made very competently, and and I had the pleasure of meeting these wonderful actors, Kaushik,
Mm.
Roy, and Shraman,
Kaushik Sen.
who plays the young Naxalite, yeah. And when working with them, and I found it very, very stimulating.
Uh, do you have ideas of, or are there possibilities of any such other films in the air or around? Or do you think that even this film, if it works, or if it is allowed to work at least, then there is a possibility of moving into another direction, raising questions, not maybe directly, not making provocative, but still making metaphorically and vocally.
Right. I think that's the purpose of art. I mean, that is an acknowledged purpose of art, to raise questions, and if it raises the right questions, then that's good enough. And I think that this film does. It doesn't provide the answers, because no one has the answers at the moment.
Exactly.
But it does end on a note of hope, and hopefully it will create conversation and debate. I really hope that happens.
And even at the ending, for example, which I found very moving but more meaningful than moving, is that when the role that Shomit plays, when he realizes that the material, the information which has been provided to him has been false, and a committed, honest legal luminary finds it so distasteful and so shocking, and it really churns everything inside him.
Right.
So this realization, coming to face the truth, the horror of the truth being distorted and trampled,
Right.
and the tragedy of that, that is a completely different kind of ending. It's not just justice triumphing, but more than that.
Yes.
How things happen in the interstices of justice, and how they leave their pain and wounds.
And leave their scars, and
there.
the scars stay, and
Yes.
sometimes they just
So it's not just a happy ending of
not at all. No.
finally the truth triumphing or finally justice triumphing. More than that, something stays on, lingers.
Yes.
I think that gives a different kind of a character to the film, a different kind of a quality.
Right.
Would you like to add on that, on your experience?
No, I think given the context of the film, that kind of a ending works. It does work. I was doubtful about it when it was done, but I think it works, because maybe it's important to rub in that point that at the last moment, this man has the realization, and there's an epiphany
Yes.
suddenly. It's Let's
And
see how.
that's more than just justice being done and
Yes, yes.
taking it beyond that.
And it's a realization of the fact that perhaps his whole life has been spent helping injustice.
Right.
Which is a big thing, and
In
that's
the legal system
something he
itself.
cannot live with any longer.
Your Honor, I hold that the right to think is very much on trial.
A man is on trial.
A thinking man